Dear students, welcome to Brush Up Zoology video tutorials. Here I'm taking the same topic, I'm continuing the last topic, implantation in mammals. I talked in my last lecture about the blastocyst. What is blastocyst and how it develops? You've seen that blastocyst it develops after 5 to 6 days after the fertilization. It comes down, morula changes into the blastocyst that has a layer of albumin and then corona radiata and then cells of Robber. It develops a cavity in the center, which is fluid filled cavity, and the cells, rest of the cells inner to this, they align in a layer around the central mass, embryonal knob of cells, which are called as the trophoblast. So the role of the trophoblast is that it is going to form extra embryonic membrane. It does not participate in formation of embryo proper. So that take and once this blastocyst has been formed and it fixes firmly on the wall of the uterus, and that process is called as implantation. So implantation means the firm fixation of blastocyst in the wall of the uterus. That is implantation. That takes place about 6 to 7 days after fertilization has taken place. And for that purpose, the wall of uterus wall that already prepares itself so that the blastocyst can get implanted onto that, and it prepares itself, it thickens rather under the influence of hormone estradiol and progesterone. Progesterone is produced by corpus luteum, and estradiol it is secreted by the follicular cells. So that prepares the uterine wall to for the implantation. So it grows in size, wall becomes thick by greater development of smooth muscle layer. Uterus has a smooth muscle layer which is called as myometrium. So myometrium thickens, and proliferation of epithelial lining that also takes place. That lining is called as endometrium. You need to have a look at the histology of uterus, then you'll understand. So myometrium and endometrium, both they thicken, and blood supply of uterus that also increases considerably. Glycogen and fat accumulate in the endometrial cells. These cells, they accumulate glycogen plus fat, and glands they develop to secrete in the endometrial cells. The glands they develop to secrete nutritive fluid into the uterine lumen, and this preparation, it is occurring, all these preparations are happening under the influence of these two hormones estradiol and progesterone. So estradiol is preparing the uterus from the very beginning of the when the cycle starts. When follicle starts developing, estradiol is being secreted, and once the ovulation has taken place, progesterone takes over, and that does this particular job. These two hormones altogether, they do this job. And now the zona radiata and albumin coat these two layers, albumin coat and zona radiata. These disappear, they start disappearing. How they would disappear, you would see in the other diagram. I'll just show you the other diagram. Albumin, it starts receding. So this is albumin, starts receding, and so does this zona radiata. So this is zona radiata and this is albumin. These are start disintegrating, and now what is left? What we have left? We are left with the trophoblast. In the next stage, when it disappears, we would ultimately be left with these parts. So in a way, this trophoblast and the cavity which was you were seeing, that has enlarged. This is fluid filled cavity that enlarges, and furthermore, when these totally they disappear, this trophoblast is going to come in contact with that of the wall of the uterus. And here it would, this is trophoblast and this is the wall of the uterus. So these are in they come in close contact in a way. So it is preparing for the implantation. So the rapidly grow, now this blastocyst has increased in size. It starts rapidly growing and it presses against the endometrial wall between the two folds of the uterine wall, which is formed on the mesometrial side of the uterus. So where it implants on the mesometrial side. So what is mesometrial side? Mesometrial side is the it is the mesentery. It is the side. Mesometrium is the mesentery suspending the uterus in the abdomen. As many of the times we have been discussing that vital organs, they are not simply hung, they are hung with the help of mesenteries. Certain mesenteries, they keep them in the place and they are held by means of these mesenteries. So such a mesentery that holds the uterus also, which is mesometrium. So on that side, on the dorsal side, the mesometrial side, this blastocyst, it gets implanted in the uterus, and soon the trophoblast on the side opposite the embryonal disc develops. So where is embryonal disc? Here is the embryonal disc. On this side, it starts developing the villi. It starts developing the villi. So now the side which is opposite to the embryo proper would be formed on this side. On the other end, the villi would develop. So how it would look like? So it would be something like the parallelly the formation of extraembryonic membrane has also started, which we'll take up in the maybe in the next lecture. But on the opposite side, this is the trophoblast. So the villi, they start developing and they make hold of which are called as these outgrowths are called as primary trophoblastic villi, which push into the corresponding uterine crypts. So here is the wall of the uterus, right? So they would push here against these like this. Crypts which are formed in the uterine wall, and the arrangement it firmly fixes. This arrangement would firmly fix the embryo in the uterine wall. The trophoblastic villi absorb the secretion from the uterine wall, secretion from uterine glands, which I mentioned that they are formed in the wall, and these pass into the yolk sac fluid, and thence they reach the embryo. First, here is the yolk sac. This is the yolk sac. And here the embryo proper is being formed. Make it with a different pen. So here is the embryo proper being formed, and this is forming the yolk sac. So this uterine fluid is being absorbed and it reaches ultimately the embryo. By diffusion, first by diffusion, and later on vitelline vessels they develop. We'll talk about that. And the villi probably they digest the epithelial cell and then they pass the products to the embryo. So this is the implantation in the mammalian embryo and also in the human embryo.